Well, we got a perfect day for working inside, and that's kind of where we're working. We got the Quonset Hut behind me. It's semi-finished. It's kind of like just dry storage right now, but we've got a lot of our stuff parked in here today, trucks, equipment, tractor, and we're gonna be working on mainly winter prep or winter modifications to some of our vehicles. I've done a lot of planning, a lot of ordering, a lot of sourcing hard parts to get, and I think I'm ready to go. It should be a pretty awesome next 2 days. So we're gonna get started on the tractor first. We've got pretty much everything we're gonna be working on today inside the hut, out of the snow. So a tractor has lights on it. Obviously they're right here, but the problem with tractor lights is they're right here on the front. So they're blocked by the bumper, they're blocked by the forks. When you have a snow plow on here, basically the lights on the tractors aren't doing much for us. So we're gonna do a light bar on top that faces forward. We're gonna do some pod lights that face towards the back. Let's get going on it. This is a light bar. This is a 20-inch, and these are the light pods. This comes in a kit. With light bars, there's two different options. You can go really cheap, that's what these ones are, or you can go really expensive. And the reason I went with these ones is almost 5 years ago, I bought these same exact ones for our Polaris, which is right here. I got the bar on the front, and we had the pods on the back. They've worked absolutely perfect for me. So we're gonna put these ones on today, and we're gonna start with just mounting these. So we're gonna get them all mounted up, and then we'll worry about the wiring a little bit later. So what we're gonna do to mount these lights is I'm gonna permanently mount them. We're not gonna drill holes. I've chose to weld these on, and to actually mount the lights, it's pretty simple. The big light bar just takes these two bolts. So what I did is I took the grinder, and this is called the ROPS. This is a rollover protection. It's like a roll bar on a tractor. I grinded off the paint. It's got really thick paint or like powder coating on it, and you want to weld onto bare metal. And then the welder itself, you have a ground. So we're gonna ground it to bare metal. I have some bolts back here on the side that should work. And let's get these tacked on. Something like that. Yeah, that'll work. All right, the lights are mounted. They're looking pretty cool. Let's get them to work. So we're gonna run these lights to come on from a switch. This is a little switch panel we're gonna be using. It has one for the rear lights, so that's off. That'll be on. It has one for the LED light bar, which will be the forward-facing light. But the way a switch basically works is you have power from the battery coming into the switch, and then it's separated at the switch, and then it goes to the light. And when the switch is in the off position, it basically like cuts the power off. And then when you turn the switch on, it allows the power to flow through and it'll light up your light. Luckily, we do have power on the back of this tractor already, and it has a light back here, but this light, it's basically almost worthless. It's extremely dim, and it's got a little on-off switch on it. We're gonna take that off, and there's already power there. And the power I'm looking for from the tractor is power that only comes on when the key is turned on. So these lights, they're only gonna work if the key's turned on. This light works just like that. So we're gonna unbolt this one, we're gonna cut the wires, and then we'll start wiring in these lights. How bright it is? That's it.
Oh, that's dingy.
No, it's not bright at all, and it's too low. I mean, it's a cool light, but just not for this. Yeah?
It's like a bathroom light.
It's like a bathroom light. It'd be cool for like
the chicken coop?
Chicken coop it could go, but it's not an LED bulb. So if you're ever doing like electrical wiring in a vehicle, I highly recommend that you invest in a light tester. That's this. They're really good for things that we're doing now, but they're also really good if you're running into problems. I use mine pretty much every time we pull one of our trailers because I have so many problems with the electrical on it. So you hook the ground on the ground wire, which is the black one usually, and then in this case, the positive wire is this white one. And you can see we have power going through there. So this is what's gonna power our lights. The way these switches come is they have them kind of like pre-wired almost. And you can put your negative into this one, you can put your positive in, and you can just run them like that. And they have them set up so these are actually like illuminated. So you can see them at night. I usually don't run them like that. So I'm gonna disconnect it and just run it just like a straight switch.
You were saying Backstreet Boys and NSYNC.
So who got back together?
NSYNC got back together for a song.
Okay, so there's a bunch of wiring back there. That's what the problem is. Pretty cool heat gun I got. I found this at a garage sale. It was brand new in the box. So we've got some little butt connectors on here, and these are a little bit of nicer ones that you can heat shrink, and it gives you like a nice waterproof seal. So far we have wiring from the power of the tractor. So this wiring is gonna go into the switch. We'll wire into the switch, and then from the switch, we have this wire right here, and this is gonna run to the lights. We're gonna run it up this roll bar. We'll make it look nice and pretty, and we'll get them wired in. We'll see how they work. Well, it's a moment of truth. We've got it all wired up, and we just gotta clean up everything as long as it works. We've got the switch kind of loosely in here. And we ended up just using the switch as it was pre-wired. These little butt connectors like didn't want to come off, and I didn't want to break it. So the switch is gonna light up just like it is right now. Let's see if we got it. Let's do the front one. Oh shoot, that's bright. That one's working. Let's see if the back ones work. Okay, everything's working. Okay, the wiring was pretty simple. So we have one power going to both of these. So I got one wire spliced between the rear ones, and we've got one power wire going to the LED light bar on the front. And then as far as grounding it, we have one ground hooked to all of them, which is hooked into where we've welded that bolt on, and that's grounding all three of the lights. Let's get all these wires cleaned up. Well, I think these lights are gonna be awesome. I'm gonna do a little bit of adjusting with them later when it's actually dark out. And the tractor has just been great for us. So this is a Branson 4820, so it's a 48 horsepower. We picked it up in the spring. We just hit 113 hours on it, which I feel like is a lot for one season with the tractor. And the tractor, well, at least the plan is to have the tractor be our primary source of snow removal. We got a big 7-foot plow for it that we're gonna use. And I also got a couple things underneath the hood that I'm gonna show you guys. The plan was to finish the shop and have a heated shop to store the tractor in. That didn't happen. It's taken us a lot longer than we thought. So we don't have a heated space for the tractor, but we do have is a block heater. So I've got two cords under here. I don't know if you can see these down right here. So the one right here, I had them install when we bought the tractor, and that's a block heater. So it goes into the block of the motor and it heats your coolant for you. So you can plug that in if it's really cold to kind of warm up your tractor. And then the other one right here is one that I installed. And let's see if we can get underneath and I can show you what that one is. Okay, and what that is a heating pad that goes over to that little cord, so I can plug that in and it's gonna get hot, and I've got it on the oil pan for the motor of the tractor. So when it gets really cold, your oil can get extremely thick. So with the tractor, a few hours before we wanna start it up, I'm gonna plug both those plugs in. We're gonna pre-warm the oil, we're gonna pre-warm the coolant, and hopefully we don't have any trouble with it starting when it's really cold out. Well, I think that's gonna do it for the tractor. Like I said, it has 113 hours on it, and we actually just had the light come on the dash saying that it wanted to do a regen, and it wants to basically get the exhaust really hot, and it has something called a diesel particulate filter, I believe is what it's called, and it wants to burn off all the soot in there. It's like emission controls. I was under the impression with these Branson tractors that as you're driving and just using it, it kind of burns that off on its own and you don't have to do an actual regen on it. But I think because the way Arielle and I drive this, we drive it at lower RPMs most of the time, and I'm guessing that's why it wants to do it. So at the end of the day, I think we'll fire this thing up. You got to bump it up to 3,000 RPMs and basically let it sit for a half an hour. Let me get things moved around in here. We're moving on to the next piece of equipment. Next up, we got the Polaris, and we're not really doing modifications to this, we're more doing repairs. This is a 2014 Polaris Ranger 6-wheeler. It's got the 800 motor, and last time we took this thing out, we were on our hunting trip, and we had the brakes go out on us. I believe what happened is we overheated the brakes because we had brand new brake pads on there, and I think they were adjusted too tight. So when we were just driving around, normally driving, the brakes were rubbing, and they were already hot by the time we got to a steep downhill. And then when we were using the brakes on the downhill, they got really hot. The front brake pads, which were brand new, are now pretty much ruined. They're like glazed over and they're squeaking and they're not working very well. So we're gonna put brand new front brake pads on there. We're gonna make sure not to adjust them too tight. And then I also pulled the back wheels off, and those brake pads are pretty much gone. So we're gonna do back brakes and front brakes on the Polaris. So I kind of know how to do this because I tore these all apart when we got back from our trip to figure out what was going on. And the part I'm undoing right now is called the adjuster screw. So basically what that does is it sets where your pads sit, kind of when you're not using them. It was cranked down pretty good when we got home. It was kind of hard to move the rotor. The brakes were dragging on it quite a bit. But to get these brakes apart, you got to take the adjuster screw all the way out. So there's one of the pads, and it's easy to tell with my eyes, but it might be hard in the camera. It's almost like glazed over. And believe it or not, there's quite a bit of brake pad worn down there. Actually, let's compare these to a new one. Yes, they've worn down quite a bit.
For being brand new.
Yeah, so are these the same pads? I think they are the same pads. They're just, let's see if we can get her to fit.
Snug as love.
Very snug, yeah. Okay, go again. And let go. Okay, I might want to loosen up a tiny bit more. We're going to get the other front side done, and then we're going to move to the mid axle, which is the rear brakes, and those are a little bit different. Okay. Look at that.
Because it senses it.
It's just really powerful. You wouldn't be here all day. Onto the back side of the machine. So I said it was a little bit different, and that's because there's only brakes right here in the center. That back axle, it doesn't have anything to stop it. So we're just gonna pull off the mid axle or the wheels off of it, and I'll show you these brakes. I've already been in here and I took a look at them, and they're really worn down. So let's pop them off and I'll show you what they look like. You see how thin they are?
It's thin as a crepe.
Not as bad as the truck that one time. The truck was on the metal. Yeah, they need to be done. Okay. And then I'm just making sure this caliper moves nice and smooth, which it does. There we go. Well, that's gonna do it for the Polaris. The brakes are working awesome. We're not really gonna be able to figure out if that was the exact problem and that we fixed it until next season. We're not gonna be driving this too much. I'm not gonna put the plow on it like I usually do. We're gonna leave it off for now, and we'll put it on if we need to. But like I said, we're gonna depend on the tractor for plowing. Let's pull this out. We're working on the old Tundra next.
You mean the beautiful one?
What are we doing today? This is our 02 Tundra. We have had it since 100,000 miles, and it is currently sitting at 312,000 miles, which is pretty impressive in my book. And we keep doing kind of modifications and maintenance to it because I don't think this truck is ever gonna die. But last year we did something that was just amazing, and that was these new headlights. These are called projector headlights. And we also have a cheap light bar in here, but these projector headlights, no pun intended, are like night and day difference. They just like light up the road for me. I have a little bit of trouble seeing at night. I wear glasses when I drive, so those are awesome. But we're gonna do some modifications to this thing today, specifically based around the cold temperatures. We moved to Alaska 5 years ago, and the coldest temperature we saw where we lived was -30 Fahrenheit. So very cold, but where we're at now, it's going to get a lot colder. We probably could have done this stuff back there, and it would have been better for the vehicle, but our trucks always started, they were fine. We're gonna go ahead and do the modifications today on these. So I already put some of these heat pads on it. This is what they look like before you stick them on. It's got a cord on there. I believe they're like 3 or 4 feet long. And it's just a little heat pad. I put it on with some silicone. I had to do that a few months ago while it was still warm out. So that's already on there. It's got one on the oil pan for the motor. It's got one on the transmission pan to heat up those fluids for us. And one of the next things we're gonna do on this is for the battery. So when it's really cold, it's extremely helpful to have a fully charged battery. So this is a trickle charger. And last but not least is a block heater. So I mentioned we had one on the tractor. We're gonna be putting one on this truck today. So it goes in the side of the engine block and it warms up the coolant for us. And trying to find one of these in Alaska became tough to do. So apparently Toyota stopped making them or stopped sending them to dealers in Alaska, and they didn't recommend putting them in the vehicles anymore. I don't know what was going on or what happened, but thankfully to some folks at a Canadian Toyota dealership, this one was in 𝐀𝐥𝐚 Toyota. I don't know where that's at. Canada, made in Canada. So we got our block heater shipped to us from Canada, and that is the little heating element. So kind of funky looking. You're gonna put this in the side of the motor inside the block. We gotta pull out the little plug where it's gonna go. It's got one little, looks like an Allen wrench that'll tighten it in there. And then you're gonna plug it in like so, and there's your plug. And since we have so many different things going on here, we have the block heater, which has a plug. We have the trickle charger, and we have the 2 heat pads. That's 4 plugs. We have this 4-way box that's gonna connect them all into one plug. These are kind of cool. They're made up here semi-locally, and they use like an Arctic rated extension cord. So this is heavy duty stuff that can go down in extreme cold temperatures. Let's get going on this thing. I think I'm gonna not go on my back just yet. Let's pop the hood and we'll see if we can get that trickle charger put on. V8. Is that my little modification right there? My little screw? Because that was too loose. Oh, I put one on this side too. Interesting. Okay, this thing is, it's hooked up. So we have a positive that goes to the positive on the battery. The negative goes on the negative. You would plug this into, you know, your standard wall outlet or whatever you got, and it would trickle charge the battery, which is just like a slow kind of low charge to kind of keep it topped off. What I'm gonna do now is leave it just sitting here and not mount it anywhere. This one has a really short cord. I mean, maybe like 2 feet long, and I need all these cords to match up at that junction box I have. So I might have to mount this down a little lower, or maybe I could put it right here. But we're gonna be done with this for now, and we're gonna go underneath and we're gonna see if we can get that block heater installed. We've had a couple squirrels that have been coming in here and looking for bedding material. I had a nice roll of these shop towels, and he knocked it on the ground, rolled it out in the water, and then chewed a hole in a bunch of them. And about a week ago, I gave them a dog blanket that they started to tear up, and I put it out in the woods for them to like kind of sacrifice it to them, but they didn't care. So now they're back, and we're gonna have to do something about that because I don't want them to chew into something that I need. We're gonna head underneath the truck. I've never done this before. There's something on the side of the engine block called a frost plug. We're basically gonna pound that out, and we're gonna replace it with this. We might lose a little bit of coolant on the ground, but let's see what happens. Right there, where my green laser is. I could get that out somehow. That's way in there. Apparently it leaks all of the coolant out.
Whoa. Good thing you got the 5-gallon.
Not a fun job. So that frost plug was in a spot that was like impossible to get to. Drove the truck up on ramps, gave us some more room, used a broom handle with a punch on the end, and I basically punched it on one side to kind of flip it in there. It's not screwed in there or anything, it's just pressed in. And I knew that some coolant was gonna come out. I didn't know this much coolant was coming out, so it is draining everywhere down there. It's not very good. We'll see what happens. Oh, 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 here. So that's what a frost plug looks like, or a freeze plug, after about an hour and a half to 2 hours of trying to get this thing out. Oh my gosh, that was pretty horrible, I'm not gonna lie. So what happened was, I was supposed to hit the top, and it was supposed to flip it in there, and then you just pull it out really easy, right? No, what happened was I was at a bad angle, and when I pounded it in, the whole plug just went like into the block of the motor. So it's really tight in there. I tried like 4 different pairs of pliers. I had some dikes that I was cutting it with. And about, like I said, an hour and a half, 2 hours later, we finally got it out. While I was under there, I stuck the block heater in. That's super easy. You just put a little lubricant around the little O-ring that it comes with. And then there's an Allen wrench. You just tighten it up. I have the cord on there. I'm gonna go back under there. I've got 3 cords. I've got the oil pan heater, transmission pan heater, and now the block heater. I'm just gonna zip tie them all together and feed them up through the engine bay, and then we'll be able to hook them into the little box and get them all hooked up. We should put that on the wall.
I know, that's a relic.
Look at that.
That's a reminder.
Feel how thick a metal it is too. It's not.
Pain. I know, it looks like a bullet.
I don't know. It's hard. I can work out here. I'm cold. You got a boat?
Yeah.
Okay, pull them up slowly. Okay, keep going. I'm just trying to get in places not next to moving parts and not next to anything hot. So this one right here. This way.
That's so funny.
4. So you got 4 plugs in there now. Okay, everything's mounted. All right, let's see if this works.
I did hear the generator, so it must work.
It's working. Something's working, right? Let's see. See the turbocharger? It's going. So all in all, we got a lot done on the truck today. Not everything I wanted to accomplish, but that little plug on that block heater took up a lot of my time. So we got it plugged in. The trickle charger's working. I'm gonna go under there and touch the heat pads. We'll see if those are working. I'll touch the block heater. We'll make sure that's getting hot. We'll call it an evening. It's getting pretty cold out here. Oh my gosh, it drained me.
Hey, I smell something. You smell that too?
I do, like.
Heat. Like electric heat.
Oh yeah. They're hot. Whoa, those things heat up fast. Oh yeah, whoa, that's really hot too. And then, last but not least, okay, everything's working.
That's amazing.
Oh, those things are hot. Those
So
are
do
really
you
cool.
just turn on maybe an hour before?
It says you're supposed to change it, depending on how cold it is, like 2 to 3 hours, yeah.
Oh,
That's what they recommend. They're saying that over like 3 hours or something, it's not really even doing anything. The heat kind of just wastes, but. Well, since we are heading in for the night, Arielle and I decided that we're gonna try to regen this tractor. And I've got it warming up. Should be warm by now. What they want you to do is bump the RPMs way up to like 3,000 RPMs, set the brake, put it in neutral, and hit the regen button. Let's see what it does. Another cold morning working out on the trucks in the Quonset Hut shop, and we are officially done with the black Tundra. It's ready for winter. We got it topped off with our radiator fluid, and we let it run a couple different times to make sure we had no leaks. It's looking good. We also got our winter tires put on, and our winter tires are made of a little softer rubber than the summer tires, and then they also have little metal studs that help when it's really icy out. Unfortunately, this tire right here, when I went to put it on, it only had about 10 PSI in it. So I pumped it up to 35, 40, and we're gonna keep an eye on it. Hopefully we don't have a leak on that one. And we've also been working on the silver Tundra. So this one got its winter tires put on also. And we did basically the same thing we did to the black truck. So we've got the oil pan heater, transmission pan heater, trickle charger, and the block heater. Thankfully, this truck already had a block heater when we bought it, so I didn't have to put that in. They're all wired. We're gonna test them out and see how they work. And I'm actually gonna hook up a little wattage tester, and we're gonna see how much power it actually takes to heat one of these trucks up. You see, that one's even bigger. Okay. Whoa. That's a lot of watts, and I forgot to mention earlier, you know, we didn't have our trucks set up like this at our old place. Partially because it wasn't that cold, but partially because we didn't have like the power needs there to really run something like this for a long time. And honestly, we don't really have the power needs here yet. So these trucks, anytime we're gonna have to plug them in, it's gonna be off generators this year, which I'm okay with doing. It looks like the wattage has dropped down now to 570. Yeah, but it was up at 700. So I want to show you something on the trickle charger too. I was reading the instruction manual on this last night, and it was saying that when you plug it in and it's just lightly or slowly flashing the green light, that means your battery is above 75% and it's just trickle charging it. And it was saying when it's slowly flashing the red light, it's below 75%. And this one is flashing the red light, and I tested this battery not too long ago. I was having problems with my diesel heater, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, and our battery was reading a little bit low. So I'm gonna have to look into that, and it might be time for a new battery this year. When it gets cold, having a newer, fully charged battery can really help on getting your truck to start. I'm gonna get things cleaned up in here. We gotta move a few things around. Now the fun stuff begins. We're gonna modify the lights on the Tundra. Well, what we got going on is something that they call a retrofit. And what that means is basically you're gonna take apart your headlights and you're gonna redo them on the inside. We're gonna put projectors in here. This is the same modification we did to the black Tundra, and it is amazing, totally worth it. What I've done now is over on this piece of plywood, I have marked exactly where those headlights are hitting. So this is the top of them, and then this is like the edge of where the main beam is hitting. So that's the one headlight, that's the other. We need to leave this exactly where it is during this whole thing, along with the truck. This truck, through my research and through looking at it, is gonna be a little more difficult than the old Tundra. It seems like when vehicles get newer, it's just harder to work on stuff. So we need to pull the headlights off. To get the headlights off on this truck, you have to pull the whole entire grill off, and you gotta pull these little panels off. So let's see if we can get the lights out. Just like that, you got the headlight out. So unfortunately on these trucks, it's a bummer. So anytime you have a headlight out, you have to actually do this. You have to take the grill off, that little plastic piece, and you have to pop the whole light out. So we're gonna take this one, I'm gonna grab the other one real quick, and we're heading inside. Well, we are inside the nice warm cabin working for a little bit, and the purpose of being in here is we need to take off the lens of our headlight. So this clear part it's almost like glued on. It's got like an adhesive that lines around the whole entire outside, and to get that apart, you need to heat up your headlights. So Arielle's got the oven going she's got it at 260, and we're gonna put it in for about 10 minutes once it's preheated, and hopefully that works. You might have to put it in like 1 or 2 more times. You gotta work pretty fast. So there's a few screws on these headlights. I think we got about 6 of them. I'm gonna get those removed. I'm gonna take the bulbs out, and we'll stick them in the oven. Okay, that's the old headlight bulb. It's like a side marker, like a clearance. This one's like way more glue on it, I think is what it is. That was horrible. That took a long time compared to the last ones we did. There is a ton of this glue stuff in here. So this one's done. I just put the other one in the oven. I think I'm gonna leave that one in there for about 20 minutes and we'll give it a go. Actually, I didn't even get this done yet. There it goes. Next step, we are gonna kind of mock up the projector lights and we're gonna align them exactly where our old headlights went. And I'm making some modifications to the back of the old headlights. So you can see this is the one that I haven't done, and you've got all these little clamps and ridges that kind of stick up. And that is for mounting the old bulb in there, which we no longer need. And on the new one, I've grinded it down smooth. We've got a nice smooth surface for the projector that's gonna bolt on the back. Let me get that other one done, then we're gonna get our projector bolts put together and see if we can get them to fit in here. Okay, so that's where it's gonna go. Come down.
Yeah,
Get that corner down into that corner. Can you feel it in that?
Yeah, I can feel it. I'm going. So you want that line? See that blue line? You want it underneath the tape, right?
Well, guys, we have light. So I went to turn these lights on with the truck off, and it was making like a real funky noise. And I was like, "What the heck is going on?" I thought I had a bad ground, so I regrounded it to a ground that was already on the truck. That didn't work. What it was is that battery in this truck is going bad, so it didn't have enough power. I had to turn the truck on, let the alternator charge the battery up, and then the light went on. So you can see we've got it aligned with where the old headlights went. This truck is a little bit different. They need to be adjusted. So when I just stuck it in there, it was pointing down about 2 feet too low. On the old Tundra, when we did it, you put them in and they like align perfectly with the old headlights. So what we did with this one is I kind of lifted it up and I used some of this JB weld. It's their stick weld. So it looks like that. It's called steel stick. And it's an epoxy, so you basically cut off a piece, you roll it up and you mix it up, you stick it in there, and I stuck it kind of behind it. I rolled it like a worm and I stuck it behind it, and I had Arielle aim the light down where it needed to be. She stopped there, she held it for a couple minutes. It takes 5 minutes to set. I believe it's set. This one's good to go for now. Let's work on that other one and then we'll move on to the next step. So I got that on the back. That's the bulb. So we used the JB like stick weld, the stick epoxy on the one side because that sets pretty fast and you can mold it in there. And now we have flipped them over. The stick weld has dried. We've used regular JB weld, or this is the JB quick weld, so it's a 2-part epoxy. Kind of sealed in the back, and this is gonna harden. It takes a few minutes. Let's head back outside. We're gonna work on something else on the Tundra and let this dry a little bit. So that's what we're doing. We're doing new fog lights on the Tundra. The fog lights that are on here, they're bad. They pretty much don't do anything. We're upgrading to a brighter fog light, and we're also upgrading to a different color. So we went with an amber color, which is a lot better in snow, and it's really easy for your eyes to see with this color. This is pretty straightforward. You pop out the old ones, you put the little wiring harness that it comes with, and they plug in and you can adjust them. So finally, hopefully, something easy to do today. Isn't that funny? It's so easy. Oh, cool, man. Is it working?
Oh gosh.
Okay, so we got power. Oh, there we go.
Whoa!
Look at, they actually have a beam too, you know what I mean?
That's cool.
Those are cool. There you go. Right there. Over on the driver's side fog light, the wiring is different colors. So I'm going to show you guys again the light tester and how you can use this to find where the power wire is. On the fog light, let's see, down underneath there, there's a red wire and a black wire. The red wire needs to be the positive and the black wire needs to be the negative. I've got our light tester just hooked to a bolt on the truck, so that's going to be our ground, and I'm going to touch these wires inside this connector, and when we find the positive, it's going to light up. So nothing on that one, that must be the ground. There we go. So it looks like on this one, that blue wire right there is going to be our positive wire. All right, we did good today, but we're calling it quits. It's getting pretty dark out here, and that JB weld on the headlights inside, that really needs to dry like all the way before we put them back in. So the fog lights are complete. I'm hoping tonight when that dries, I can get the lenses put back on them and baked in the oven, and then tomorrow we can come out, we can wire everything, and hopefully we can get our headlights put back in. We just have to make sure that that doesn't like blow over in the wind, right? I don't think it will.
There's no wind today, huh?
I think
good job.
we're good.
I'm proud of you. I probably could have done it about half the time, but
I was thinking to have you do it next time. I just wanted to learn them, you know what I mean? You already know how to do it. I don't, so I wanted to learn. Well, there it is. All our hard work is starting to pay off. So we've got the lens back on the headlight. It's very similar to taking the lens off. So what I did this time is a little bit different than last time, is I actually took all the old glue out of the headlight and I replaced it with new glue I bought from the headlight company. I baked it, I stuck the lens back on, I clamped it down. She's ready to go. It's important that you do a good job putting the lens back on because we don't want any water to get in there. The next step is basically gonna be putting everything back together, and we're hoping, we got our fingers crossed, that our headlights are gonna aim exactly where we need them. Let me show you a little bit of the wiring that comes with this headlight kit that we're doing here. The company makes it really easy to put this whole thing together. It basically plugs into your existing headlight, plugs onto your battery, and you have a ground and you're ready to go. So this is the relay. We're gonna be mounting this a little bit later once we get everything in there. We're gonna have a connection for our high beams. We've got our battery one. It's simple, they're all labeled. And then something that's different than your regular headlights will have is this one has a ballast. So you can see right there, it says ballast. Power is going to come from your battery into the ballast, and then the ballast is going to give you more power, and that's going to go to your new headlight. Let's get this thing all hooked back up. Well, they turned out pretty good. This one on that side, actually both of them, I had to adjust a little bit. There's an adjuster screw on the back of the headlights. I don't know what happened, but through the process, they both dropped down about 2 inches over there, but I got them raised up. They're level exactly where the old headlights were. The fog lights are looking good. From inside there, it looks like they're a little bit low, but I'm gonna adjust them later, and that's what we'll wait for. We'll wait till it gets dark tonight, and we'll put these to the test, and we'll see how they look compared to the old headlights. I also wanna show you guys something. In the back of the truck, we installed this, it's almost been a year, and it's been absolutely amazing for the winter time. Well, as you can tell, we have dog beds back here, so our dogs ride back here a lot. So this shell is an insulated shell, and then we've added a heater back here. And this heater, I mean, I don't know how many hours we have on it, but we did a trip last spring to Oregon and back. It was like 6,000 miles. We had this thing running like 90% of the time. It did awesome. There was a point where it was 0 degrees when we were sleeping on the side of the road. And I got a little temperature gauge in here that tells me the temperature back here, and it was 100 degrees back here, and I had this thing on the lowest level it could go, and the dogs were just like super comfy. So we have a battery to power this thing, and the battery's up front. That charges when the truck is running, and when I shut the truck off, this won't actually draw power from the truck starting battery. It'll just take power from that battery. And then we've got our diesel tank mounted up here on the wall. It's 15 liters. It lasts like an insane amount of time. And then the heater itself is inside here. And this isn't like some crazy top of the line diesel heater. They have ones that are really nice and they're probably better, but this is just a cheap one. And I think they're like $100 or something like that. It's a pretty simple design. It runs off the diesel fuel and then the battery, and it heats up in there. It's got a fan and it blows the hot air out. We have an exhaust that runs down underneath the truck. There's an intake in here. We have a controller on the back here that you can set the level. And then I've also got a little wireless remote inside the truck that I can turn it up if it's getting a little too cool back here. Let's fire it up and we'll make sure she's running good. So I was having problems with this thing about a month ago. I was getting ready for winter and I wanted to make sure it was working well, and it wasn't. So I was starting it up and it was just blowing a bunch of white smoke, and it wasn't actually like firing up and it wasn't getting hot. I did a lot of troubleshooting. I took it apart. I completely cleaned it. In the end, what it turned out to be is our second battery right here, the little breaker I have under the hood for it to charge it. I don't know what was going on with it, but it wasn't getting a good connection. So I tripped it a couple times and I reset it, and then we started charging the battery. So the battery was just a little bit too low to get this thing going. It's got a glow plug in here that takes quite a bit of electricity when you first start it, but once it's started, it barely uses any battery power. Well, just when I said this thing was running awesome, it's not. It failed to start again on me, and I'm pretty sure it's that connection from the battery again. This little controller in here will tell you how many battery volts it has, and it was sitting at 12. I started up the truck and I hit that breaker switch a couple times and it bumped it up to 13. So it's charging now. I might have to get a new breaker switch under the hood, and we'll see if it takes off for us. 13.26 volts. So something's going on. We got plenty of battery power. Well, the diesel heater not working is kind of like a prime example of what happens when you live in a cold climate. It is rough on things, and I guess it's kind of a good thing because you get really good at working on certain things that break. And that's how I learned how to fix a lot of things, is they break, and I just got to keep tinkering with them until I fix them. So I got to go back to square one on the diesel heater, see if I can get her going. I'm really happy with the lights. I think they look awesome. They're really gonna help us at night. And honestly, one of the main concerns we have at night is moose. So we have a lot of moose on the roads here in Alaska. If you hit one with a truck or a car, it's pretty much like hitting a full-size horse. So you can imagine it would cause quite a bit of damage, but I'm gonna work on this thing for a little, get all my tools cleaned up, and we'll see you guys when the sun goes down. Okay, so let's turn them all off for now. How do I turn these lights off? Those are pretty good. How bright that is.
Wow, look at the back.
You can't see because the cloud blocks it. You know what I mean? Like that's as much as you can see right there. There you get the real light. Well, that's awesome. These lights are working great. So we fired up the tractor. The light bar is awesome. You can see so far, and you can tell we put the snow plow on the front, so we've been doing a little bit of plowing. The back lights, I might do a little bit of adjustment with them. They're kind of pointed towards the center, and I want them a little more out towards the edge. But all in all, pretty good. We regen the tractor the other day, and it took about a half an hour, so not too bad. Let's go fire up the Tundra and check out the headlights. All right, let's give this a go. We're in the driveway. Let's see how these lights do. High beams, regular. Let's try the fog lights. Whoa.
Good coverage to the side.
Okay, awesome results. I think we're gonna go for a little drive and really test these things out. And if you guys are interested in any of the stuff that I used or that we bought to do some of these modifications. We're gonna try to list everything we can in the video description so you can check it out. And we're gonna include a little clip here at the end of what the lights in the Tundra looked like before we did the modifications.
Look, it's orange, dude. They're white there.
They're a lot whiter than the other one, but it's supposed to be the best one.
They're brighter than the other Tundra, huh?
Yeah, these are newer, right?
Yeah.
Off. Now do the fog lights on. Off. High beams.
I'll do the fog lights again. Okay, you ready?
Yep. Yeah, I think I'd leave them right where they were. I adjusted them up a little. I don't know, it's hard to say. High beams. And now we'll do the light bar high beams. Ready? This is all the lights.